All right, psychology nerds, and welcome to Psychology Stuff, the podcast out of Phoenix Studios at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. I'm Ryan Martin, one of the hosts of Psychology and Stuff, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, chair of the UW Green Bay Psychology Program, Dr. Georjeanna Wilson-Dunges. How's it going, G?
Woo! I am doing great. So today we are talking about humor, and I am so excited that I also have to use a different computer now, and it allows me to do these Zoom sort of whatever filters. And so today,
Yep, I just took your picture. I want to share that for the people at home, the new Zoom filter.
I perhaps will not keep this on all the time, but I'm so excited. I've been having so much fun, like with these filters. I can be a unicorn. I can have ski goggles. Like the opportunities to engage my students is just skyrocketed. So I think that they're laughing with me, but they're really not. They're laughing at me, and I know that, but it's okay.
For the record, I have always thought of you as a unicorn, so this doesn't change that at all.
You're just so sweet.
That's accurate.
So this episode, we are recording in February, an episode that is dropping on April Fool's Day. So many of our listeners are in the midst of pranks, right? So I'm curious, right out of the gate, do you like pranks?
Me? Do I like pranks? No, I hate pranks. I am a prank hater. And so maybe we will talk with our special guest today about are pranks actually funny? So I'm so excited for you to introduce our special guest in a minute. But first.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know we were there yet. Kelsey, how's it going?
Doing great.
Do you like pranks, Kelsey?
No, I am not. I've been told that I'm not funny, so I don't like any of that stuff. Although I was supposed to be born on April Fool's Day or April 1st, so that would have been like a prank in itself, right?
Wow.
For my parents.
Very nice.
I was born on February 28th, which means my birthday is a few days after when we're recording this. But that was like it was a leap year. And so like a couple hours later, and I could have been the biggest joke. Like I could have been a quarter of my age right now, which was phenomenal.
This is exciting because I was actually supposed to be born on Christmas. And instead and so my name, if I had been a girl, was going to be Holly for that reason. So, Kelsey, you could have been April, I suppose. And and Georgina, I'm not sure what you call someone born on leap year. That sounds like a joke, but it's Yep. Okay. Yeah. Leap. We're gonna call you Leap. So Kelsey has been doing amazing work for us on Psych and Stuff on social media. Please, please, please check out her work. It's at Psych and Stuff. She's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Georjeanna, I think we should get to our guest.
Yes.
Awesome.
So excited.
She is a professor of management in the Donald J. Schneider School of Business and Economics at St. Norbert College. She received her PhD in management science from UW-Milwaukee and teaches leadership, organizational behavior, and strategy. Her dissertation research examined leaders' use of humor and the effects on followers' creative performance and satisfaction. It's Dr. Lucy Arendt. How's it going, Lucy?
Oh, man, I'm living the dream like so many other people.
Yes.
I don't know. I can't remember if you told our viewers that it's 8:19 a.m.
I did not. No, this is an early morning one for us.
So, so this is what artificial cheer looks like. I'm good. I'm excited. Now, of course, whatever time it would be great. Well, no, that's not true. 6:30 would have been impossible, really.
Yeah. I feel like that would have been midday for Ryan.
Well, I mean, it would have been in PJs.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be looking like my coworker over there, who is He's
Moving cat.
he's relaxed.
Well,
We'll just go with that.
so 2 days ago, I was bragging to Georgina because I managed to sleep until 7:30 one day,
Ooh.
which honestly, for me, makes me think that maybe I'm depressed because the idea of me being able to sleep that late is incredible. This morning, to counter that, I woke up at 4:30. So this is, and I've just decided at one point, it's not happening. I'm not falling back to sleep. So
I get it.
I'm just going to get up. But
Yeah, I'm up every day by 6. But my normal rule is no talking
yeah, that's a
to
good
me
rule.
until necessary. And necessary could be almost any time of the day, but not
Right.
not early. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty honored that you selected this time as necessary to spend time with us.
Well, of
you're
course.
like talking.
Favorite
and
people. Favorite people.
I have to tell
Oh no.
a funny story of Lucy and I share a love of catered meatballs, and it's a strange passion that we share. And so when Lucy used to be a professor at UWGB, and we would go to these leadership award ceremonies, and there were always these awesome meatballs. And the last one that we went to together, we actually ate the last remaining 2 meatballs using the giant catered serving spoons. And it was like it was a moment. We shared a moment.
We have photographic proof
Yes.
of our shared affection for these protein nuggets, because it's all about the protein. It wasn't about, like they tasted good. I mean, we were just doing it to build muscle and, keep our brain working.
Yes.
Somehow.
Absolutely.
And then you could see it worked,
Yes.
obviously. So all the other things you might read about, diets, blah, 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 things for your brain, just eat meatballs.
Yeah.
In gravy. They're in gravy, right? They were in some kind of
Like barbecue sauce, I thought.
probably some salty preservative of some. Anyway,
I have a video of me from a few years ago pretending to eat, well, not pretending, eating a meatball, but eating it like it was a hand fruit, like it was an apple. And as a joke, and what people don't know is that I choked on it. And so the video actually could have captured the last moments of my life. And so every time I see it, I think, oh, that was really funny, but I almost died. It wasn't worth it for the joke. So speaking of jokes, and that was a dynamite segue by me. Things are really
beautiful. Well played.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the dissertation. I want to talk more about, or start there.
Must we? Did you want? If I'd have known, I could have brought the brick over to show you. Because of course, like many other folks, I got a printed copy that I've never looked at. I think I also got one that I gave to my parents, sort of a here, now, see, somebody thinks I'm smart. Here's a thing. Anyway, so when I had to choose my dissertation topic, I was in management science. My dissertation advisor was Mark Money, who's currently the chancellor at UW Milwaukee, and awesome guy. Awesome. Shout out to Mark. And I told him pretty early on that of all the things I could study, I was super interested in studying humor. And, we had some pretty serious conversations about this, in part because this may or may not surprise you, but studying something like humor when one is in a business program can be perceived as frivolous, as not, as it's not like strategy for international organizations. It's not that kind of a topic. What I told him was the reason I was interested in humor is that it's an everyday thing that affects regular people, and I wanted to study something that I thought, as I learned more about the subject and ultimately published some things on it, would be helpful to regular people. And in fact, I've done a lot of I don't even know how many presentations on humor since. And I always ask the question, how important is humor to you? And every single time people say, I couldn't live without it. I couldn't live without it. So what I studied, it was a big study. I looked at how leaders' use of humor, different kinds of humor, affects their followers. And I was particularly interested in how it might influence followers' creativity and also their satisfaction. And I had a great site that worked with me. Actually, it was Bellin, which is located here. And what made that so cool is Bellin comprises it's hospital, it's psychiatric, it's clinics, it's all kinds of, and I had an amazing participation rate, like 80%. It was just crazy. And I had data from leaders and from their followers. The statistics, Georgina. Oh, it was so sexy. I spent so many, anyway, I'm getting off topic, but the bottom line, what I discovered is that in fact, there are particular types of humor that positively influence followers in terms of their overall performance, their creative performance, and their satisfaction. Not all kinds of humor. So there are some distinctions that are critically important, but significant impact. And I did a lot of reading, obviously, to try and understand and explain those results. But yeah, that's what I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about the types of
Sure.
humor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kelsey, our fabulous intern, shared that people have told her that she's not funny. And I totally disagree with that from my interactions with her. And so I wonder, is humor the same for everyone? And what are the types of humor?
Yeah, well, that's an awesome question, right? And first of all, there's producing things that other people might perceive to be humorous. And then there's you yourself perceiving things to be humorous. So, I suspect that Kelsey is actually quite funny and may not realize it. And so anyway, types of humor. There's the kind of humor that's, first of all, if we just talk about positive versus negative, there's positive, negative, there's positive directed toward others. By the way, that's called affiliative humor. And that's the jam if you're looking to positively influence other people, okay? It's where you're trying, through the use of positive humor, to help other people, make their day better, uplift their mood, help them to see that, maybe something that right now feels pretty dark, actually there's the potential for positive and so on. So that kind of humor is fantastic. That's the stuff that we share, that we all laugh, where we're not laughing at somebody and we're not trying to prove that we're better than them. There's also the kind of humor they call self-enhancing. It's for us, and it's when we watch a puppy being adorable and maybe falling all over itself, and it's sort of funny and we giggle, and we're not necessarily sharing that out with other folks to help them, but it helps us. Yep. And then there's the negative stuff. The obvious negative is aggressive humor, which is where things like pranks, or many pranks, not all, but many pranks fit, and scatological humor, the stuff with talking about bodily functions. Hopefully you pick up on that. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
The kinds of jokes that 6-year-olds like a lot. Okay.
And
6-year-olds sometimes, I was going to say, sometimes 6-year-olds occupy much older bodily forms. And then sexist humor, all the blonde jokes, all those things are considered aggressive humor because their objective is to make fun of, to laugh at, for the teller of the joke or the story to put themselves in a position superior to that other person. That kind of humor not only doesn't make people feel good about themselves, it actually closes them up and significantly reduces their creative ability. The last one that's negative is what regular folks typically call self-deprecating, self-denigrating. And this one usually catches people off guard because we've all been sort of socialized to think that, it's okay. You tell something about you kind of make fun of yourself, and that ingratiates you with folks. And it does if you do it once. If you continue to do, if your humor style, producing humor, is all about making fun of yourself, it irritates other people because it comes across as fishing for compliment. No, you're not stupid. No, you're, and people get tired of that. And so the advice, of course, is, you don't need to use that. You don't need to make fun of yourself in order to lighten other people's mood. And in fact, it really just comes across as kind of sad and pathetic. Again, toss it out as a starting point in a speech, let's say, fine. But to continually do it, not so great.
It's funny because I think a lot about social media and how people use humor on social media, and sometimes like there's a genre on social media of sort of the joke about how I'm unable to function in the world without X, Y, or Z, or at all, and it's one of those sort of genres that I think sometimes I think is funny, but not very often. I think a lot of times
Agreed.
I just get tired of it. Like I don't necessarily want to like think about how my friends aren't capable. Like that isn't that isn't a message. And so all of those sort of jokes about needing like alcohol to get through the day or needing coffee to get through the day, they can be funny sometimes, but just done too often, I sort of feel like it, like you said, it just makes me a little sad.
Yeah, 100%. Some of it is one of the purposes of humor. One of the things that humor does is that it helps us to bond with other people, because when we laugh about the same thing, now we know we have something in common. And so there's that aspect of it. There's that sort of cognitive aspect of it of, we know we have this in common. And there's also the affect aspect where it's, we're both laughing, and laughing, as you know, is contagious. My youngest son and I were just talking about this. One of his goals in life is to be a stand-up comedian. And what he's discovered is that in classrooms, for example, with people wearing masks, it's hard to get the kind of laughs that one might typically, because we're not seeing each other smiling and laughing. And so we're less likely to bust out that laugh, right? I mean, it's the phenomenon of being in the movie theater surrounded by other people and something funny happens on the screen, so you're laughing because you're all laughing, versus sitting at home by yourself because you're lonely and and something's funny, but you may not actually laugh.
I actually, it's funny you say that, because for the longest time, when I hear people talking about how they miss seeing action movies in a theater. I get that. I actually miss comedies more because I enjoy the camaraderie of a crowded theater laughing together at a joke. Some of the most fun, it's funny because a movie that I absolutely loved in the theater, which by the way, I'm certain is terribly problematic, and I probably shouldn't have thought it was funny, was the movie Hitch. And I saw it on Valentine's Day, and I saw it with my wife, and it was a crowded theater, and it was so funny, and people were laughing, and I had such a good time. I bought it afterwards, and I've not watched it since. There was something about,
I get it,
the context that made it great.
I get it.
And in a way that it probably wasn't great, but you're right, it's that contagion piece.
Well, the extreme of that is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, right? And people go and it's a movie, but we participate. And the very first time I saw that in a movie theater and saw all this, again, like any other opportunity where we're bonding around people, we feel physically energized and mentally more. And this is the cool thing about humor. In order to get a joke, particularly, or a story that's funny, especially one that's got some sophisticated aspects to it, you have to be smart, and getting the humor is a way of opening your mind. And that's the connection to creativity, right? As you open your mind, as your mind is open to think about, oh, wow, I never thought about it, right? That's the punchline. The punchline is the unexpected thing. Oh, wow, I never thought about that. Well, now your brain is doing, oh, what else could I be thinking about? It's amazing. Humor is a great tool for that sort
I
of
think
thing.
about that, like with the creation of memes or like a string of puns that I will see, like someone will start a punny conversation that will keep
Mhm.
going and people will keep making puns. I think that sometimes the social media humor like hits you right because it you're in the place where you can receive it and understand it and also contribute something more to it. And so Kelsey asked a question in the chat about like things on social media about adulting, like adulting is hard and adulting is tiring and whatever. And I I don't find those things particularly funny, but I think that in the context of a like an 18 to 24-year-old, maybe I would think that they're hilarious and I could contribute more memes to that or more puns to that. What's that sort of snowball thing?
Well, again, it comes from this place of we see something that's intended to be funny. We find it funny. So now our brain goes to, oh, that reminds me of something else. And then maybe you share, and presumably you're corresponding with people you already maybe have something in common with. Of course, this can also happen when you're just responding to some random thing that a friend posts that from a group or whatever. But you kind of go, oh, it's the brainstorm, the true brainstorming where you're really firing off ideas, and again, and especially where people don't feel constrained, where they don't feel as the cool thing about media is that social media in particular is you're less concerned about how do I look while I'm saying or thinking this or typing this thing. We don't, because there's a disconnect between the time we throw it out there and the time that people like it or whatever they do, that we don't necessarily have the time to think about, oh, I wonder if people are judging. I wonder if people are judging me. So we just throw stuff out, right? And then it escalates, right? Because people become more and more creative. I'm a big fan of memes, but what you're talking about, Georgina, is all about not everything is funny to everybody, and that has everything to do with the same way we perceive anything, right? What are our previous experiences? What are our values? What are our expectations? For example, use of profanity doesn't bother me. It really bothers some people. And no matter how a joke or funny story might be constructed, if it uses profanity for some people, it's a non-starter, right? And there are kinds of humor that for me are non-starter. One genre is again sort of the pranking, the all of the funniest home video stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't do it for me. And here's the reason. With one of the theories about humor is called incongruity theory, and it says that what makes something funny is the unexpected. So you're telling a story or you're telling a joke and it's going this way, and so everyone's brain is going here, it's going here, it's going here, and then boom, you drop the line, the punchline or whatever, and it's like whoa, and then our reaction is to laugh. But the secret to good positive humor that relies upon that incongruity is that we know nobody gets hurt. We know that there is no actual negative consequence, no meaningful negative consequence. Well, when I see some of those so-called funny videos, you can tell some of those people they're getting hurt. They're getting hurt. Sometimes the camera's still rolling and we see the person get hurt. Okay, that to me, again, it violates the basic rule. But there will be some people who'll be like, they still find that funny. It's actually very mean kind of humor.
Well, I think,
and yeah,
no, I think, I actually, one of the things we've talked about before that we share in common is that when I was in graduate school, I did some work on humor as well. And it wasn't my dissertation, but it was just a thing I researched. But for me, it was actually its use in counseling. And one of the things that I've come to realize is the role that I'm going to use the word edginess, but the role that it plays in that, because I think people want their humor, most people want their humor to be a little bit edgy. The problem is that people have vastly different thresholds for what is and is not
Yes.
edgy. And so for
Exactly.
some people, and I'll use myself as an example, back when The Onion was doing a lot of videos and things like that, I used to find some of them really funny, even when they got kind of dark, because I saw them as being sort of harmless in that no one was getting hurt, but intentional sort of subverting of tropes, in a very clever way. So when they do things like, my example is, I guess most monkeys will die from being stabbed, or something like that was a video, like new research finds most monkeys will die from being stabbed. To me, that was sort of a subversion of research in the news and how they handle research and things like that. But of course, that's horrible, right? It's a horrible, horrible thing. And, and so I would show it to my students as an example, like, where are you on this continuum? And some students found it really, really offensive. And some students found it funny, and so that edginess barometer is really, I think, in a lot of ways, the predictor of when we find things to be offensive in some ways, or part of it.
Yeah. And again, there are some things, let's take sexist humor as a good example, which for the most part, I don't find funny. However, every once in a while, there will be something that sort of resonates. And I'll just go, oh yeah, okay, that's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. But more often than not, it would be something that maybe talked about women that I see in myself, right? That okay, this is me. I can't necessarily give you a good example of this, but for the most part, when I hear that kind of story or a joke about that, I think, nah, that's not funny. But certainly there are people who find it hilarious. But this is also a good place to talk a little bit about dark humor, right? And the conditions under which that is perceived as okay and funny. And well, Ryan knows, because we participated in an event where this was the focus of what I talked about. And for some people in some professions, for example, or even for any number of people after a particular event, dark humor is the thing that helps us cope. It's like so far over here that it makes the reality that we're having to deal with, which is awful, let's say, right? It makes it a little bit more palatable. We can manage that. That way out here thing helps us to manage our emotion around this. For example, there are so many quarantine jokes, so many COVID. I'm doing a program actually later today, putting my two research interests together: humor during a pandemic, during a disaster. I mean, this is like, I would just say this, and this will come across awful, but what a time for me to be alive, okay? Because this is like, it just all comes together. And this is something that nobody alive has ever had to deal with, something so extreme, so discombobulating. It's a 360-degree disaster affecting every aspect of our lives. And so, of course, there's humor, right? And all different, mostly things that I would classify as affiliative, but some of it is pretty dark. And if you were to chat up people who are, healthcare workers having to deal with the tragic consequences of this pandemic, the average person might think, oh, they would never joke about this stuff. False. They are joking about it hard. And the reason they are is because they're having to deal with the actual life and death consequences over and over and over daily, right? And I don't think most of us, not in professions like that, can even imagine. We can't even get close to what it must be like. And in order for those people to sort of rebalance their psyche, they need to get dark, right? So firefighters, police officers, you name it. Every major national, international disaster ever, there are jokes and stories. And again, it has everything to do with, people just going, wow, this is so horrible. Okay, here comes the joke.
I
Yep.
think it's also worth noting that they understand that their audience for it is a safe audience
Yes,
too, right? They know who they're telling the joke to.
exactly.
When I think about some of the times, the best example I can think of right now is when Tina Fey did the sheet caking skit on Saturday Night Live a
Yes.
few months ago as a way of coping with the Trump presidency.
Mhm.
You know, that was in a way a version of some sort of dark humor. Like, okay, we're dealing
Mhm.
with a real political crisis,
Yeah.
and we're going to deal with it by eating cake. But you know, and I thought it was funny, but she was panned for it by many people who
Yes.
said you're not taking this crisis seriously enough. You
Right.
do that because you're privileged and so on. And oops, and I suspect that was because the it was too broad an audience. That's a joke that
Yes.
works when you know your audience is safe. It doesn't
Exactly.
work when your audience is America.
Audience is key. Yep. My oldest son is an officer in the Navy, and he has shared with me, he's shared with me some of the things that are exchanged in their media with each other. And he said, Mom, I know that you study humor, but I can't even tell you some of the things because you just, as a civilian, you would be appalled. Again, they're being trained to operate in life and death. And so for that, it's the appropriate audience. For the average, no.
Right.
When I was younger, there was a genre of jokes, truly horrible, dead baby jokes.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this?
I remember
I remember
Yeah.
these. Yes.
I mean, talk about taking a taboo topic. I mean, this is one of the ways that people deal with taboo, right? We try to present it in a different light. We try to make light of it, and that helps us deal with the fact that babies die, and
Yeah.
it's terribly sad and awful, but it happens. It's part of the human condition.
Yeah. I wonder if they, just to change the topic a little bit, that this is dropping on April Fool's Day. And I wonder if you have any thoughts about, like, why is it that, like, we call the funny people the fools, or like they're always like the sidekicks, like they're the foolish joker kind of characters. Why are they always humorous in that way?
Okay, that's awesome. I love that, because there's actual history associated with this. So the idea of the court jester, this has everything to do with how can we speak truth when the truth is difficult, when the truth is painful, when the truth is something that someone in a power position maybe doesn't want to hear. We're familiar with the concept of, shooting the messenger, right? The person who shares bad news is often seen as not only the bearer of that bad news, but maybe even responsible for that bad news. Well, knowing that this is sort of a human thing we do, court jesters came into prominence, and therefore more also out in the rest of the community, because they can do this. They can say something that's true, that's maybe painful, and then they can say, I'm just kidding. And the person who hears it has to accept it that way. So now they've heard the truth. They've heard the, at least as the jester, the joker, the fool perceives it. They've had to hear the truth. They've had to take it in. But they can't be angry with or punish the bearer of that news, because I was just kidding. And can't you take a joke? And by the way, that's also something that people who are using aggressive humor often say as a way of further dumping on their victim, right? You say, well, you can't take a joke. Well, no, because you're being an asshole. I'm sorry, I don't know if the podcast allows this, but
that's all right.
But that's the origin of this, right? It's all about truth telling, and one of the characteristics of being human is that some of the truths we have to share with people are difficult for them to hear, and humor is sort of like a spoonful of sugar, right? It's sort of and so we have this person who acts the fool, who in fact is perhaps the most savvy person in the room, who is able to speak truth. And that's why, you'll be in a meeting and somebody will say something and then they'll kind of but they've just dropped some important truth, or the it's a way of smoothing that potentially conflictual dialogue or, situation.
There is an
I don't know if that gets at
amazing
what you were hoping to know more about, but yeah.
there is an amazing video floating around on Twitter right now of a gamer, and she is someone that she's playing with asks her what color her thong is, and she unloads on this person appropriately, I think.
Yeah.
And then he says at one point, "Can't you take a joke?" And her response is so perfect. She says, "That's not a joke.
Right.
Can you imagine a stand-up comedian?" I think she uses John Mulaney as an example. Can you imagine him just pointing at an audience member and asking that? Would anyone think that was a joke? And it was because, I think, to your point, people oftentimes will try and use that fool approach to get away with saying something that's just gross or dumb or mean. And to see someone actually call someone on that is beautiful. Quite lovely. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And again, it's abusive, right? That all of that, it's what I was talking about earlier, is aggressive humor, right? The whole point of it is to make someone else feel small, to prove to them that you've got something over them. And then to follow it up with the, "Can't you take a joke?"
Right.
Or, "I was just kidding." It's like, bullshit. You were not kidding. You're just using that to give you cover, right? Own your hostility, man.
Right.
Or woman.
As we finish up here, good point. I don't know actually, but so as we finish up here, what have we missed? Is there any sort of final thoughts on humor that you want to make sure people know?
There's one thing that I think is important for people to know, and I want to track back to Kelsey's comment earlier about perceiving that, she's not funny, or that sort of thing. The truth is, being funny and having a sense of humor those are both skills. All right. And like any skill, it's learned, and it's you practice, and you get feedback, and you hone, and you do more. So if a person wants to be funny, they have to don't think of it as, you either got it or you don't. No, it's a skill. You work at it, you study it. And yes, you can actually study something like humor and become more funny. I mean, I don't tell jokes. I can't remember the punchline, so it's pathetic. But I know how to tell a good story and how to sort of use intonation and so on. In terms of having a sense of humor, everyone has a sense of humor. It's just, how broad is that sense of humor? And I personally think it's good to try and have as broad of a sense of humor. That doesn't mean embracing aggressive humor, but there's all different kinds of humor that are still positive. A lot of it has to do with, just like anything else, being around the right people. Being around people, hang out with people you think are funny, and you'll continue to develop your sense of humor. Do things that give you more opportunities to be around humor. The final thing is, humor is an essential coping mechanism. And, in something like a pandemic, we need it. But what we don't want to do is use it to harm other people, because that makes things worse for everybody, including yourself. People who use aggressive humor are typically insecure, unhappy, depressed. I mean, it's almost a cry for help in some respects, right? So use humor, go find humor, go watch those puppy videos, all that stuff. It's good.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gee, should we do our positive note quick?
Yes, we should.
Who goes first? Do you remember?
I think it's me. I think I go first today. So we always close out our episode, or most of the time we close out our episode with a positive note, something that ends us on a positive note, although we've been talking about humor, which is often very positive. And so we decided we were going to talk about the last time, or a time in the recent past, that we laughed out loud, that we LOL'd. And so I actually LOL'd about something on social media that I saw the other day. It was a video. And the reason why I found it funny is because I saw this in my own self and my children. And so the context of it was very funny to me. It was a child, like a toddler, who asked their mother if they could have this apple, and they're holding in their hand an onion, and it's clearly an onion. And the parent says, "No, you can't. That's an onion." And the toddler's like, "No, it's an apple. No, it's an onion. No, it's an apple." And so the parent says, "Fine, eat it." And this child just bites into this onion like it's an apple, and they start crying, but they're like, "I'm not backing down." And they ate that whole stinking apple like Ryan was talking about his meatball episode. And I thought, like, I could see my own children doing that with me. And so I found it hilarious. So that was the last time that I LOL. That was yesterday.
Nice.
That's great.
What about you, Ryan?
Well, first I should tell you that my oldest son does eat onions as though they are hand fruits routinely. He just asks, "Can I have this onion?" And he walks around eating it like it's an apple. Yeah. Which I,
Bless him.
yeah.
God bless him.
So I did this, I think we did this the same way, because I realized I've laughed out loud a couple times during this episode. So I decided to think about a time when I've laughed out loud when I was alone, because that is so rare for me. And it was very, there's the guy I follow on TikTok who his name is Max the Very Good Boy. And he is hilarious. He does these really clever little skits where he plays multiple parts in the skit, essentially. I don't know if he'd like me calling them skits, but they're skits, I think. Anyways, he has a series where he pitches Hallmark movies, and he gives them really punny names, and he plays both sides of the pitch meeting for them. He's got a series of about 20 of these, and I almost always laugh out loud when I watch them, but they always have these like cute punny names for things. So for the movies he's pitching, so it'll be like people bonding over the selling of lemonade, and then the movie is called My Main Squeeze. Or neighbors who bond over their mutual love of horses, and it's called Neighborly Love. So he does a series of these as well as other things, and I consistently find myself laughing out loud. So these are some of the few that I actually even send to people. So it's very, very good.
Awesome.
Hey, before we go, Lucy, do you have anything you want to tell people about? Where can people find you? Anything going on at Norbert's that people should know about?
Well, there are always cool things happening. I don't know. I don't maintain a website myself or anything like that. But some folks, I'll do presentations on humor in the community, and I always love having interested people in the audience. Later today, I'm doing a Zoom thing. This is still in February, so where I've got over 150 people who are dialing in to learn about what I was talking about before, disasters and humor. It goes back to my main point. People can't live without it. It's something that it helps us to be more human, if you will. And people are always interested in learning more about humor. So keep your eye out for funny things like that.
I was gonna say, so if you live in the Green Bay area, Lucy is often found in the community doing talks at various places. Check one out. They are very good. They're often funny, though she doesn't.
Not because of
me,
yes. But because I share memes and stuff. I mean, I'm just like here, you may find this funny, but I the only jokes I remember are the ones I learned as a 9 or a 10-year-old that are completely inappropriate for every audience.
How about you, G? Do you have anything you want to plug?
I do not. How about you?
Sure. I guess this is coming out in April. I still have a book. They haven't pulled it off the shelves. So if you're interested, well, at least at this point they haven't. So if you're interested in anger, you should.
It hasn't gone through yet? I don't know.
if you're interested in anger, it's out there. Why we get mad. I don't know at this point if I'm doing any talks in April, but I hope I am. You can find out more at alltheragescience.com. I keep a list of the events that are coming up there. You can also follow me at Anger Professor on all the social media places. G, what's your handle?
I'm at Georjeanna WD, so GeorJeannawd.
Very good. And of course, our intern Kelsey is doing, again, amazing work. Thank you for that, Kelsey. You can follow Psych and Stuff on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That is a good place to ask questions, request topics for episodes, contribute to new segments, things like that. So thank you both very much. Psychology and Stuff is a production of Phoenix Studios at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. The executive producer is Ryan Martin and the production manager is Kate Farley. Our audio production coordinator is Bill Stalick. Our sound engineer for this episode is Sarah Miller. Our graphic designer is Kimberly Bleeks, and our intern is Kelsey Engelhardt. Special thanks also to our guest today, Dr. Lucy Arendt. If you haven't already, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also head over to our website, uwgb.edu/podcast, to check out past episodes of this and all our shows. I'm your host, Ryan Martin, and I'm here with my co-host, Georgina Wilson-Dundas. Keep being amazing.